All right. Good morning. Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday, and I got men's group tonight. So kind of excited about that. Always excited about getting with some guys and talking about life, and we're setting some goals, and it's kind of a good thing. Enjoy doing that. So hope everything was well with your world last night. Man, we finally got our taxes turned in to our good friend Mike, and he and I, we've known each other. Tammy and I and him really known each other. He and his wife since high school, and just stayed good friends forever. And it's good to have those kind of people. And so Mike and Suzanne, we love them. So anyway, he does my taxes, so we dropped those off. And yesterday, man, spent the afternoon really just writing and excited about just what I'm learning and what I'm wanting to share. So it was a good evening, and looking forward to what's going on this weekend. We're hoping to get away. I say hoping, we're planning on it. We got working through flights and everything, trying to get down to New Smyrna Beach in Florida to hang out with a close friend of ours down there. So should be a good weekend. Hope everything's well in your world. We are in the book of Acts, right smack dab in the middle of some incredible drama in the life of Paul. And so if you've been tracking with us, we're in chapter 22 today, beginning in verse 22. 21 is kind of our hinge verse. So I'm going to do what I can to kind of catch us up to speed to that. So, man, what I see this as reasoning with fools, because that's really what he's doing. And then he's being comforted by God. There's some incredible truths that we can pull out of this today. And so, listen, life can get hard, can it? And you can find enemies and traps everywhere. And you never know, but when things turn south, and they turn south in a hurry, and then you have to figure out what we're going to do, right? And God's always there just to remind you, hey, I'm still in charge. I'm still doing my thing, and it's powerful when you see that. So this is where we are. Paul had taken. Do you remember? Paul had grabbed some money when he was in Europe to bring to the Jewish church because they're struggling financially. They're being assaulted by the Jews there and being just persecuted by them, of which Paul was once one of those. And so he's collected money. I think there's a twofold purpose. One, meet that need. Two, show that the Gentiles have a great love for the Jews, because that's just a riff. It's a racial issue. It's been a racial issue for generations, and there's no real fix to that. In fact, there's no real fix to any racial strife that we have outside of Christ. There's just not. And so we know that in Christ, man, he's made us whole. And we see things vastly different. And so Paul, a Christ follower, sees things vastly different than one who's not a Christ follower will see those things. And so to me, the cure and the fix for everything that ails the world is going to be Christ. It just is. Pick a battle. Christ is the answer to that. And so this is what we're seeing. So anyway, Paul gets to Jerusalem. He's so excited. He speaks to James, tells James everything that's going on. James is the pastor. He's the half-brother of the Lord. He is the pastor of the church in Jerusalem. And so he shares with him everything going on. And James goes, hey, man, rock on. That's great news, but we have really big issues here. People are really angry with what you're doing. And here's what they're saying about you. And so here's what I need you to do. I got 4 guys that are already ready to go. You just need to go take them, get their haircuts, pay for it, do your Nazirite vow, show up in the temple, and then people will say, surely this man is in keeping with the law. He's not what they say he is. And Paul obviously had no trouble with that. And we've talked about all that, the whole political as well as cultural as well as national issues that deal with the law and all of that. Paul's very good with that. Paul's concern is that we don't add works to the law, that we don't add to grace, we don't add law. Certain hoops we have to go through to be saved. But to do ceremonial deals and all of that, he had no trouble with that. Paul is very clear on that. So now, he's there in the temple, and everything seems to be working well. And then a man from Asia Minor, that's up there where Ephesus is, a Jew who hated the Gentiles, stirred up a riot. right? I mean, you never know where that stuff's going to come from. You never know who's going to stir up, who you're going to offend about whatever. That's why it's important to live a clean life and a clean conscience, because you never know where your enemies are going to pop up. So in this place, he starts screaming out that this is the man who trashes Moses and is encouraging the Gentiles to just destroy everything. And so a sheer mob gets going. He's beaten by the mob. The Roman commander, kind of the guard, the police, whatever you want to call it, they come down, they see what's going on. Their whole deal is to squelch the mob. They drag Paul out. As they're pulling him up the stairs, the Jews are still beating on him, so much so that he really can't even climb the stairs. And so they get him to the top. Then Paul says in Greek, "Hey, can I speak to these people?" And the commander's going, "Whoa, you speak our language? You speak Greek?" And he said, "Yeah, man, I'm from a noble city, and I'm one of you guys, and so I'd love to speak." And so he does, and he simply tells the story. Here's what I love about Paul. He turns around. This is a crowd that's been beating him. This is a crowd that wants to kill him, yet he wants them to understand the message of the gospel. You can't interrupt what this man wants to do. Paul is on a mission. And so he turns around and he begins to address the crowd, and he tells his story. We looked at that yesterday. He doesn't embellish it, and neither does he water it down. He simply tells his story. He's an eyewitness to this account. He was on his way to Damascus to find the Jews who were for Jesus, and he was going to destroy them. He meets Jesus on that road. It transforms everything, and he moves into talking about what God had done for him and how, man, he's not against Moses. He's not against those things. He just knows that he's met the Messiah. And then he makes this statement in verse 21, and this is where we ended yesterday. He said to me, "Go, because I will send you far away to the Gentiles." He said, listen, so when I finally get my bearings about what happened after I'm knocked off the horse and I hear the voice of the Lord and the light is bright and I go to Ananias and he teaches me and I get my healing, he said, then I realize that the Lord is saying, "Go, because I'm sending you to the Gentiles." Now, that stirred up the crowd in a crazy way. Listen, mobs don't want to understand. And this is, I think sometimes there's discernment necessary in how we deal with unruly people. We still speak truth to them. But listen, the mob isn't interested in understanding. They just want chaos because they're of their father, the devil. And so, listen, when you're dealing with hostile environments, whether you're sharing the gospel, whether you're in a forum or wherever you happen to be, you should expect that there will be some of that. And that they don't want to understand. And you can keep trying to help them understand, but they don't want to understand. I've run into that in social media on so many different platforms, most recently in TikTok, where they're really disinterested in understanding the truth. Because they'll take a passage of scripture, these people who are against the gospel, and they'll try to pervert something. And I'll say, well, let me explain that to you. And though you reason with them, they'll just jump from that to another. They're disinterested in truth. I just think it's important that we remind ourselves of that. Not to say that we're not faithful to continue to proclaim that truth. So as soon as Gentiles mentioned, these people go crazy. Look at what it says. They listened up to this point, verse 22. Then they raised their voices shouting. Now all of a sudden the mob is it's like these people will just never stop. They raise their voices shouting, "Wipe this man off the face of the earth. He shouldn't be allowed to live." They want to kill the man because he simply wants to take a message that they don't believe in anyway to the Gentiles. How crazy is that? Then it says, as they were yelling and flinging aside their garments, man, the Middle Eastern culture is so animated in what they do. And so they're like throwing their coats off and they're throwing dust in the air and they're going, "What is going on? I kill him." Right? And they're just crazy people. The commander then orders him to be brought to the barracks. So the commander hears the hustle and bustle again. He walks out again. This is what's going on. So the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks, directing that he be interrogated. So he's standing on the steps. He hears what's going on. I'm sure the commander's lost a little interest. And all of a sudden, the mob goes crazy again. He's like, what is going on? Okay, let's just bring him in. So it says, directing that he be interrogated with the scourge to discover the reason they were shouting against him. Now, just so we're clear on some of these terms, scourge, that's something that Paul had never received. Paul had received lashes from the Jews. That's different. Paul had received beating with the rod. That's different. That's leather-bound sticks where they would just bruise the back, the Romans would. The scourge is what Jesus endured. It is where they stretch you out on a rack, so to speak. They take leather and they have it split into several deals. They put fragments of glass and bone and whatever they have, and they just beat. So when your body's stretched out, everything's laid. The skin is as thin as it can be on top. Muscle, sinew, and all of that is kind of at the top, and they just beat. And you are changed and scarred for life. Not just physical scars, but your muscles have been ripped apart. You can't do anything after that. I mean, your life is over as a man if you're trying to work or anything else. So scourging is like the worst of the worst. And so this is what this commander, this is how lazy he is. Instead of trying to understand what's going on down there, he wants to take if he listened to the story, he would realize, well, that man's not done anything stupid. But he isn't. He's taking the easy way out, and that's what happens in a worldly system. Let's just beat this man and see if he'll start telling us the truth. Really? That's your great plan. But that's how the world thinks. And so, there's no justice really in this world. Though everybody's screaming for justice and all that, it's not happening, not in this world. You may get a measure of it, but you don't get justice. That won't come until the King of Kings shows up and he judges the world in righteousness. And so this is what's going on here. Paul's not expecting to be treated right anyway, but listen to what he says. As they stretched him out for the lash, Paul said to the centurion standing by. So, they're stretching Paul out. He knows this is getting ready to get ugly. And so he asked this simple question. Is it legal for you to scourge a man who's a Roman citizen and hasn't been condemned? Now, he knew that's his ace in the hole. He pulls that citizen card out a couple of times. And here, see, you can't beat a Roman citizen, not without a trial. And so this centurion realizes, man, if I had gone through with that, I would have been killed. And so we get to verse 26. The centurion heard this and he goes, hey, man, I got to tell the commander this. He said, what are you going to do? For this man's a Roman citizen. The commander came out and said to him, wait, whoa, time out. Paul, you're a Roman citizen? He already told him he was a citizen of a prominent city, Tarsus. I guess the commander didn't make the connection that this is a Roman citizen. He said, yeah. The commander replied, man, I bought my citizenship for a large sum of money. How the heck did you get a citizenship? Paul says, I was born a citizen, man, which is a high standing. You didn't purchase it. So you didn't buy your influence. You were born in it. And so those who were about to examine him withdrew from him immediately. They're all like, well, I'm out of here, right? Everybody's like, I don't want to touch this guy. The commander, too, was alarmed when he realized Paul was a Roman citizen, and he had bound him because even binding him was against the law. And so without a trial. So here we are. Now, we come to verse 30. It says, the next day, since he wanted to find out exactly what Paul was being accused of by the Jews, he released him and instructed the chief priests and all the Sanhedrin to convene. He brought Paul down and placed him before them. This is the whole council. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Sanhedrin council. This is the largest rule. This is the Supreme Court, if you will, of the Jewish culture. This is, if you like another, it's the complete house. The Senate and the Congress all gathered together to convene to make a decision. It is the power of the government of the Jewish culture that is there, and he's placed before them. So now we turn the page, and we get to chapter 23. Paul looks straight at the Sanhedrin. He's not wasting any time. Man, he's a Pharisee. He knows what's going on. And so he looks them straight in the eye, right? Here he is. Brothers, I have lived my life before God in all good conscience to this day. Now, that's all he says. I am clean and clear of any violation that you people think that I have committed. At this point, the high priest Ananias orders those who were standing next to him to strike him in the mouth. So they hit Paul in the face. Paul simply got those words out. This is how hostile and angry the crowd is. So Paul's standing there, and so he's in the middle of the arena, so to speak. All of these men with great power are all encircling him. And so he looks at the Sanhedrin and he says, brothers, I've lived my life before God in all good conscience to this day. Now, they think that he hasn't because he's tarnished himself with the Gentiles. So Ananias, frustrated with this, orders him to be hit in the face. Bow. So Paul's hit in the face. Paul said to him, God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. You are sitting there judging me according to the law, and yet in violation of the law. Are you ordering me to be struck? Now, that's not a good thing. We see there the humanity of Paul and the fact that after he's been, drug all over the place, beaten up, tried to make a defense. They go crazy. Now he's drug into this council. Then all of a sudden now he's hit in the face. And all he wants to do, and all he is doing, is telling his story. This has gone crazy. Those standing nearby said, you dare revile God's high priest? Now, Paul made a calculational mistake here. He didn't realize that Ananias was the priest, right? Remember, he's been gone for years, teaching and everything else. And so it's been like 3 years or 4 since he's been back, unaware of that. But listen to what he says. Right away, what does he do? Does he defend himself? No. He confesses his sin and begs for mercy, right? I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest, replied Paul, for it is written. And he said, listen, I didn't know that. For it's written, you must not speak evil of a ruler of your people. I know that. I am sorry. I shouldn't have done that. When Paul realized that one part of them were Sadducees and the other part were Pharisees, he cried out in the Sanhedrin. So they've quieted things down. He apologized. Let's move on. And then Paul goes, you know what? There's some Sadducees here and there's some Pharisees here. Now, that's a little political inside deal. The Pharisees didn't but believed in a resurrection, or the Pharisee did. The Sanhedrin didn't believe in a resurrection, and so he's thinking, I'm going to create some confusion here. I'm just going to get them arguing against themselves. It'll give me a leg up. They'll realize, okay, well, they have their own issues. So when Paul realized that one part of them were Sadducees and the other part were Pharisees, he cried out in the Sanhedrin, brothers, I'm a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. I am being judged because of the hope of the resurrection of the dead. Now, all the Pharisees believed in the resurrection of the dead. They didn't believe that Jesus was resurrected from the dead, but they believe in a personal resurrection from the dead, like they will die and then they will be resurrected and there will be a kingdom. They believe that. When he said this, a dispute broke out between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. For the Sadducees say there is no resurrection, and neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees affirm them all. So the Sadducees, they're this extreme liberal branch of the deal, and they're like, nah, we don't believe in a resurrection. It's just, we're here, we're gone. That's it. So the shouting grew loud, and some of the scribes of the Pharisees party got up and argued vehemently. We find nothing evil in this man. See, Paul's thinking, man, I'm going to work this crowd. I'll get out of here. We find nothing evil in this man. What if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him? So now they're egging on the Sadducees. Maybe it was an angel. Maybe it was a spirit, which they don't believe in. So Paul's got this whole thing now stirred up. And so he's thinking, hey, the Pharisees will they'll dominate, and I'll be out of here. When the dispute became violent, the commander feared that Paul might be torn apart by them and ordered the troops to go down, take him away from them, and bring him into the barracks. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, have courage, for as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so it is necessary for you to testify in Rome. So here's Paul. He's done all he can do. He's pulled out of there. He's got to be thinking, man, this is not gonna go well. This is it. And then God himself visits him in that quietness, in that lonely place. And he says, amen, come on, buck up, have courage. See, Paul, I'm still here. Remember when I met you on the road to Damascus? I've been with you the whole time. I'm right here now with you in these barracks, and I want you to understand something. For as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, listen, they all heard. I'm gonna see to it that this results in you going to Rome, because I need you to testify there as well. Wow. How powerful is that, right? We may not always like the plans that God has for us, but we can always take comfort in the fact that God has plans for us and that God is going to get us where he wants us to be. He who began a good work will complete it. I love the fact that God himself comes down and encourages Paul in the middle of that deal to say, listen, I'm still large and I'm in charge. And I'm going to take the good and I'm going to take the bad and I'm going to weave it together to accomplish my purpose, which ultimately is for your good in this life. That's great news for you and me. It's true of Paul. It's true of you and me. We should just rest in that. Take courage. God's still in charge. Whatever's going on in your world, know that. Man, Lord bless you guys. Can't wait, Lord willing, to share some of this great stuff with you in the morning. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.